there's really a large number of conversations and more issues that come out of the arrest of former President Zuma. You would have seen it all playing out right here last night. One organization which has been fighting, perhaps I should say pushing, for the rule of law and greater constitutionalism is the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution, CASAC. Its executive director is Lawson Naidoo. Lawson, good afternoon to you. So it's the afternoon after what happened the night before. How do you feel about what's happened really over the last 2 weeks and then over the last 24 hours?
Good afternoon, Stephen. Thank you very much. Well, I think it's been a good 2 weeks in South Africa. It may seem odd to say that, but I think there's been a vindication and the strengthening of our constitutional democracy through these turbulent times that we've been through in the last few weeks. There was a very clear judgment from the Constitutional Court last Tuesday. It was a split decision, as we know. There was a minority judgment as well. But I think both those judgments helped to really enforce the point that South Africa is a constitutional democracy and we live by a set of rules that we have agreed upon, and that the rule of law is firm, that there is nobody who is above the law. And I think that was really vindicated in what happened last night, where although the former president, Mr. Zuma, was ordered by the court to have handed himself into the police by Sunday and failed to do that. But by last night, when the law enforcement agencies were instructed to bring him into custody, that did happen. And one must commend the cooperation of the law enforcement agencies, ensuring that that was done in an orderly fashion.
In a way, this has all moved really very quickly, and I keep making this point, Lawson. I don't know about you, but if 2 weeks ago I'd said to you the former president would be in jail, I don't know if you would have believed me. I know that I wouldn't have believed you if you said the same thing. There's something around the speed of this, around how due process actually works.
Well, this is a key issue, Stephen, that there has to be finality in legal processes at some point. And the highest court in the land has spoken. It's delivered a judgment, and we must all abide by it. So, I think because this is happening in a very volatile political context, that's where the doubts began to come in for many people, I suppose. But, I think this is the point I'm making is that the law and the Constitution, came through all of that and delivered a judgment that was carefully considered, an order of the court that has now been implemented. And we, as South Africans, should be celebrating that today, because it really is a vindication of the decades of struggle for freedom and democracy in South Africa.
This ANC's strong support, and I really do mean strong support for the Constitutional Court, the judiciary, the Constitution, and I keep using this word this afternoon, constitutionalism, and I'm talking about what the NEC said on Tuesday. How important was that to this process?
Well, incredibly important, and it's not surprising, because that is exactly what the ANC and the National Liberation Struggle was all about. It was fighting for a society in which we are all equal, treated equally under the law, under a set of democratic laws and a democratic framework, which is what we have, what we struggle for, and what we've achieved in South Africa. And we need to uphold that and strengthen it as we move forward, so that we deliver a stronger constitutional democracy for future generations of South Africans.
I mean, there's a sort of important thing that comes out of the statement, because the document was so, the wording of it was so strong, it actually used the word unequivocal. And then the sort of phrase that the interests of one individual cannot be placed above the interests of the nation or our democracy. The reason I keep coming back to this is it would seem to me quite difficult to walk that back. It would be quite difficult for anyone in the ANC to ever now say that that was not the case. And I realize there's a lot of history, a lot of water under this particular bridge, Lawson, but it would seem that for the moment, the ANC strongly believes this, is prepared to say so, and in government is prepared to act so.
Well, I think the events of recent times have forced the ANC to really reconsider the messaging that it has been putting out, which has been confusing at times. And it was perhaps the right time for this unequivocal statement, as you say, to be made of a commitment to constitutionalism and the rule of law, and that we want an orderly society where we are regulated by these laws and we respect them, without hesitation. And so it was a very important statement from the ANC's National Executive Committee, one that I think all South Africans would welcome.
There are a couple of other aspects to this that are really quite important. I mean, one consequence of this is that, as I understand it, the former president now will never testify at the Zondo Commission. The Zondo Commission, to use the legal phrase, will never have the benefit of his version of events. He will never answer questions there under oath. We seem to have lost Lawson Naidoo there. I'm not sure if that feed is still working. I think maybe we're back. Lawson, I think you can hear me. Let me put the question to you again. I was saying one of the consequences of this is that the Zondo Commission will now never hear Zuma's testimony under oath.
Indeed, and I think the former president has made it quite clear that, in his words and in his deeds, that he was not prepared to go and testify and answer the questions that Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo has for him, that emanates from the testimony of over 30 witnesses who have implicated Mr. Zuma in untoward behavior. In the same way that the former president also refused to answer the questions that the then public protector, Advocate Thuli Madonsela, put to him when she was conducting her investigation in 2016. So this has been a consistent approach that Mr. Zuma does not want to be held accountable for his role in state capture, and he's probably achieved that objective. But I don't think that prevents Deputy Chief Justice Zondo from issuing a report that makes findings on the conduct of Mr. Zuma, despite him not having testified.
There's another aspect to all of this around the law and the way the law treats people. So we're all equal before the law, and I don't think that lesson's ever been as clear as it is right now after the events of last night. Is there another point about the law, which is that the law must be fair? And where I'm going with this is that, as I understand it from what the Justice and Correctional Services Minister Ronald Lamola said today, the former president will be eligible to apply for parole in 3 months and 22 days. In a way, this is another test of the law. If he is given parole and treated like any other prisoner, and in fact that happens, it would allow many people again to say, look, the law has treated the former president fairly.
Well, I assume the Minister of Justice has made that comment on the basis of what is the normal parole arrangements and conditions, and that Mr. Zuma will have to apply for parole and go through the process of determining whether he is actually eligible and a suitable prisoner to be considered for parole. So long as all of those processes are followed properly and that they are the same processes that would apply to any other inmate, then one can't quibble with that process. But I think what we're all very concerned about is that Mr. Zuma must not be given any form of favorable treatment simply because of who he is.
Then there are a couple of legal things that are going to come. So we know that tomorrow there will be a judgment in the Pietermaritzburg High Court around that application from the former president. But on Monday, perhaps the more important application is the rescission application, the former president asking the Constitutional Court to effectively come to another judgment on his case. You're actually asking now to join the court as a friend of the court. Why are you making that application?
Well, we've launched an application and asking the court to admit us as a friend of the court because we want to make basically one argument and one argument only, and that is around the rule of law and the finality of court judgments. That a system of law and a society depends and relies on finality in legal proceedings. And when the Constitutional Court, the highest court in the land, has spoken, there needs to be a sense of finality to that. And what Mr. Zuma is seeking to do with the so-called rescission application is effectively an appeal through the back door. He doesn't fall within the confines of a rescission application in its true sense, where there is a clear error of fact, where there are technical grounds for re-looking at the decision. He falls clearly outside of all of those grounds, and if one reads his affidavit, it really is an appeal to the court to reconsider his defense. Now, he's had every opportunity to do that in the past. He's failed to take those opportunities. And even though he failed to do so, the Constitutional Court actually gave due consideration to his predicament before or during the course of their judgment last week.
Lawson Naidoo, Executive Secretary at the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution. I really do appreciate the time. Well,